So we're going to start chapter 4. It's geometry. It's in your textbook as chapter 4. Before we start into this chapter, we want to take a quick look over at this here. For this chapter, we're going to need a maths set. Now for the first lesson and the second lesson we won't, but from then on we will. So that gives you now a few days to go get a maths set. In a maths set, you're going to have protractor, compasses, and rulers, and they're the things that we're going to be using. So our protractor is this here. That's the protractor. And this thing up here is the compass. The compass is used for drawing circles and arcs. Arcs are just parts of circles. And then the protractor is used for measuring angles. All the other equipment in this, these rulers here, these are called set squares. And they're just triangular rulers. And then you have your regular ruler as well. The rest isn't necessary in it. A lot of them have it. Some of them might not have different parts of it. But as long as you have your ruler, your set square, your protractor, and your compass, that's everything you need. So moving back then to this, you can also get these, just to go back to them, you can get them in any kind of Tesco, Dunnes, Mr. Price. You can also buy them on Amazon then as well. If you're looking as to where to get one. So going back to this then, here we have our learning outcomes for Geometry 1, and these are just the things that we want to learn. We want to learn and understand the basic concepts of geometry and geometry notation. Notation just means the kind of different words and the different symbols that are used. We want to investigate the concept of proof, and then so that we are able to recall and use the following axioms, and we have 5 axioms that we will take a look at. And then finally we want to use axioms in the solution of problems. So let's go start into this. We're going to start into just the basic kind of concepts here. So in your notes copy, you're going to take down these basic concepts. We have these 2 ones that we're going to take down today, and you can take them down in a moment. I'm going to read through them and explain what they mean before you take them down. So this thing here, the plane. So a plane is a flat 2-dimensional surface. 2-dimensional means that it's length and width, but it has no thickness. A plane stretched onto infinity, it goes on forever. Now we have seen this before. We have seen it when we have done an X and a Y axis. So we did an X and a Y axis, and we were plotting coordinates when we were doing coordinate geometry. That's what the plane is. It's the X and the Y axis. The overall thing is called the plane. And then they have the X axis and the Y axis, and they're just the lines that create that plus shape. Points on a plane then. A point is a location or a position of a plane on a plane. It has no dimensions. It is denoted by a capital letter and a dot. So this, again, we have seen this before in coordinate geometry. You're putting a dot in and you're calling it any letter. And they can be given as, we'll say you could have the point A is 1, 1. And we have plotted in point A there as 1, 1. Okay, so that's the same as coordinate geometry, points on a plane. The letter then beside it, that just tells us what it is. So it's there to kind of identify which number is which or which point is which. The third thing then, lines. A line is a straight, infinite, thin, one-dimensional figure that continues forever in both directions. It has no end point. A line can be named by any 2 points on the line or by a lowercase letter. It has an infinite number of points on it. So if we take a look at this line here, this line is, we can call this the line AB because the points A and B are on it, and that's what they have written down here. This is the line AB. Or we can say that it's line L because it has this L shape here. Now you can call them whatever you want. If I wanted to draw another line, and I could put the point M and N, and then I could also say then that, I'll make that a capital N. I could also then say that this is line X. So in that case, I can say that this is the line MN, or I can also say that's the line X. And that's just how you label the lines. So if you see different lines, you can label them using points that are on them. If this had M, N, and P, I could also call it MP, or I could call it NP. Or I call it NM or PM. It doesn't matter the order of the letters either. So Again, now pause the video if you would like to, and you are going to take those down into your notes copy so you have a record of those. Going on to the next one then, here we have more of these basic concepts, and this is the last thing that we're going to be looking at today, and then we're going to just be working on a couple of questions. So here we have a ray. Ray then is a part of a line that starts at a point and goes on forever in only one direction. A ray has only one start point. It can also be considered its end point, and it's sometimes called a half line. So careful of that. Sometimes they might call this a half line. So you might see, draw the half line, and that's talking about one of these. A single square bracket is used to denote the start or end of the ray. So if we go over here to this section over here, what I have here is I have a line and it has one endpoint. Now that means that the line does not go this way at all after C. So it doesn't go down to the left of C at all. It starts there, that's its endpoint, and then it goes to D and it keeps going through D. Now that doesn't mean there's not other letters on it. We could have point E further up, F, G, so on and so forth, because that will keep going. But because it's called a ray, it means that at one point it doesn't go through that point anymore, and that point is called C. So for instance, if I had the ray or the half line and I called it AB, then what that means is that I'm going to have a line, and I know that this line is going to continue, but because A has the box around it, I'm going to put A here, and then I put B anywhere else. I could put B here if I want, or I could move it up and put it further. If I wanted to draw the line, the ray AB with a box around it, that means that B is going to be my endpoint. So I could now draw it this way if I like, and I'll have B on one end, and then I'll have A elsewhere. I could also have drawn that going in any direction I want. I could have it going this way up here. And as long as I have B here and A over here, that means I have created a ray. Sorry, that's a very squiggly line. So that's what a ray is. And the bracket tells us which side the endpoint is on. And remember that word endpoint, that's where the line stops at. So if we go back to what we were looking at earlier, the lines have no endpoints. That's why they can keep going through all the different points. So moving back down then to our second section, we've done rays. We're now going to move on to line segment. So that's this here, line segment. Line segment, a line is a part of a straight line. It has two endpoints and can be measured using a ruler. We use two square brackets to denote that there are two endpoints. So if I look here on the left hand side, I can see this here is the line AB, because A and B are on it. And what they do is they can write it either way around, same as what we did earlier. But there's two brackets. And the reason why there's two brackets is because the line stops at A and stops at B. There could be another point on this. I could have point C there, and that's not going to change this because A and B are the two endpoints. So if I go over to the side here and I want to draw the line, segment, X, Y, and I have my two brackets around it, I can draw any line, doesn't matter how long it is, it's up to me because I didn't specify, and I'm going to put my X and my Y. I could have also had the X and Y on the opposite side, so I could have had my Y over here and my X here. Makes no difference whatsoever what side they're on. And that is the line segment XY. If it was without this here, then I know that I would keep going through Y, and that would be known as a ray then. Whereas because there are two endpoints, then that means that I have to stop at X and stop at Y. So moving back over to the point of intersection then is the next one that we're going to look at. That's this one here. And it says the point where two or more lines, rays, or line segments meet or cross is called a point of intersection. A is the point of intersection in this diagram. So this is the diagram on the right hand side. So I can see here there are two lines, or is one and P is another, and A is where they cross over, and that point A is called the point of intersection because the two lines are intersecting. Now it could be another line. There could be another line coming down through here, and that's the point. Let's say that's called line Y. Then that means that I still have a point of intersection, and it's the point of intersection of P or and Y. So again, if I come over here and I have the ray A, B, and I have another line segment of X, Y. If I'm looking for its point of intersection, that's its point of intersection there, where the two cross over. Okay, I'm just going to put all that in a little box so I know that there's a point of intersection. And then I know I'm going to have my little line segment part that I did, and then my ray and my half line. That was the other part that we did. So moving back over to here, and we're on to our last two little bits. Length of a line segment and collinear points. Now, length of a line segment, we can use a ruler to measure a line segment, and that's the thing that we were talking about over or up at the top here. I can use a ruler to measure this thing here and to see how long a line segment actually is. If the length, now going back to down this section down here, length of a line segment, we can use a ruler to measure a line segment. If the length of AB is equal to 6, we can this can be written as AB equals 6 centimeters. So if I had a question where it said, if it said that XY was equal to 3 centimeters, then I know that that is going to be a line segment X and Y, and I can get my ruler and I can use my ruler to check and make sure that I've drawn 3 centimeters, and I call it XY. So there is where the length of the line XY is equal to 3. Now as you can see, they draw two straight lines. They don't have the little box kind of so they have two straight lines here either side of XY rather than the boxes either side, or the boxy kind of brackets. So that's just one thing to take note of there. If you see that, it's the same thing, it's just telling you now a length. And finally then, collinear points, our very last one here. Collinear points, if points lie on the same line, they are said to be collinear. So all of the things that we've been looking at so far, they have collinear points. If I go back up to the very top of this one, it says rays. If I go to the right hand side of that, I have C and D. Those points are collinear because they're both on the same line. If I drew another line here underneath at the bottom, and I had A, B, C, D, then A, B, C, and D are all collinear. And there is a little collinear example. Okay, so what I want you to do now is I want you to pause the video. You should have at this stage taken down this section here. Now over to the side, I have these little examples. It's up to you if you want to take those down. They just kind of explain where the parts of the writing are coming from, and they're giving an extra example for some of them. And there's another example for this one. The next thing I want to take down is this one here, your rays, your line segment, your point of intersection, length of a line segment, and collinear points. And if you would like, I'll zoom out a little bit so that you can see all of these different little examples on the right hand side as well, if you want to do that. The last thing then is what we're going to do is we're going to go on to page 54 and 55 in our books. And we're going to do question 1 to question 4. And all that's doing is checking to make sure and see, do we know all of these different things? Can we pick out what a ray is? Can we draw a ray? Can we pick out a line segment? Can we draw a line segment? So go ahead, take those down into your notes, and then you can try those questions from your book.